Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And streaming on YouTube.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, this is the Morning Sports Desk. I'm CJ Baumgartner, joined as always by Corey Tackman. We are going to talk about a game we have in our broadcast schedule tonight. Also, a couple highlights in the girls wrestling community, and the Minnesota Vikings maybe regretting that whole Sam Darnold thing. We'll talk about that and more. But Corey, first of all, how's your weekend? Did you freeze to death?
Yeah, we lost power a little bit on Friday night for about 3 hours. The timing of it was really, I don't mean timing because it was the coldest night of the year. I mean, like, it happened at a certain point in the night where we were getting close to bedtime and trying to decipher, like, going to bed, can we go to bed and sleep all night? Like, I'm going to be able to stay warm and dress up and do whatever I need to do. But, like, for the kids, do we need to pack up and head to my mother-in-law's place? Do we need to get out of town? Do we need to, whatever we need to do was weird. So it was like 5:15 to about 8:15, a little after 8, something like that, without power. And it was, 30 below or whatever it was for the night. It was pretty gnarly, but we made it through it. Here we are, nonetheless.
Power was out in our house for like 15 minutes, and then we just kind of went about our Friday. So, it was a little, some had it better than others, I guess.
Yeah, facts.
But where's always a great place to go, especially if you want to feel warm and good inside? You go to the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena.
Yeah, some unbelievable deals at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade right now. 2 medium pizzas for $19, an 8-piece chicken for $12, a $5 small cheesy ranch sticks, a free 8-inch chocolate chip cookie with an online order of $25 plus. You can order it online. Whatever, these offers only available at the Wadena Pizza Ranch, but what unbelievable offers they are. Cooking you lunch, cooking you supper, getting you ready to roll for another week with great, delicious food. Whether you order it online, you order it to go, or you sit down at the buffet and enjoy it in person. The Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in downtown Wadena.
Okay, Corey, so let's first start off with a game we have tonight, a little feature of Section 5A.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it!
I'm excited because this matchup, Pine River-Backus versus Browerville boys basketball. It is a 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off from the new Browerville Eagle Valley High School Gymnasium. I am really excited. I've seen a lot of games in that old Browerville gym, and they have the brand new thing. It opened up midway through the fall, and they've been playing basketball at that place. I've seen pictures, Corey, and it looks pretty nice.
Yeah, I always love a new, the gym tour, I guess, continues. And even though the situation that led to the new gym needing to be built in Browerville was considerably less than ideal, the fact of the matter is now they got it. And man, it, like you said, in pictures and in videos, it looks incredible. I think it's going to be a pretty neat experience. Do you know, like, are you set up on the gym floor? Is there a walking track? You got to perch up high? What's this going to look like for you?
So in communications with Browerville, yeah, it sounds like walking track is the place to go for that press setup. So it's going to be a pretty cool experience to get to go up there, be up and call that game and get to go. So like every new gym now, it's got a walking track, which is super nice. There's the stage in Browerville that they have there again. And of course, brand new bleachers, brand new scoreboards. This is the thing about some of these older gyms is they didn't really have a chance to let light come in. And I think if I looked at these pictures, right, like there's just enough windows at the top to let some natural light come into that Browerville gym, which is going to be really cool. So I'm expecting a fun one tonight. And if we want to take a look at the two teams, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of this game. Browerville this season has a record of 6-7. They're 5-3 in Section 5A, 3-2 in the Prairie Conference. They're 5-1 on the road, just 1-5 on their new home floor, so still getting used to those home digs. They do have a 2-game winning streak, getting victories over Verndale and Long Prairie Great Eagle. And if you look at their spot in the Prairie Conference standings, again, they are 4th there with a 3-2 record. Upsala 4-2, Osakis 4-1, and new to the Prairie Conference, Benson at 5-0, leading things there. Swanville, Long Prairie Gray Eagle, and St. John's Prep are all below them there. In the Section 5A West standings, Browerville Eagle Valley right now sitting at 4th with the record of 6-7. They have a QRF of 35.4. Sabika has a QRF of 39.4. Pine River-Backus, a QRF of 51.5. Nevis is 58.7 in that west part of the subsection. For Pine River-Backus, they're 9-3 on the season, 4-1 in 5A play, 5-1 in the Northland Conference behind only Nevis, 4-1 on the road, 4-2 at home, 1-0 in neutral site games. For the Tigers, they are on a 4-game winning streak. Their last loss came on January 13th when they lost 76-68 to Crosby Ironton in Pine River. Other losses on the year include a 90-83 L to Pillager and a 79-35 loss to Nevis. So Tigers versus Tigers here, Corey, in this matchup. If you want to look at the Northland Conference, again, Nevis 6-0 for the Nevis Tigers. Pine River-Backus Tigers 5-1. Red Lake 4-1. North Home Killier 4-2. Walker Hackensack, Akeley, and Cass Lake Bena both 2-4. Black Duck 1-6. LaPorte 0-6. So got some section standing implications in this matchup, Corey, which is always fun to see.
Let's get after it. Let's do it.
You can listen to the game, by the way, on the Superstation K-106, 105.9 FM, streaming online at WDenaRadio.com, the Superstation K-106 mobile app, or you can watch the video feed on the Hubbard Radio Wadena YouTube page. And if you're watching the morning sports desk on YouTube, well, good news. You're on the same page. Just come back here around 7 o'clock, 7:30 tonight, and we'll have that up and running on the old Hubbard Radio Wadena YouTube page. As we say, Corey, should be a fun one. Can I get a moo?
Moo!
Moo. All right. A couple other kind of housekeeping things just to keep in mind as we get rolling on this Monday. We got some things to catch up with over the weekend. And we mentioned last week there were some boys wrestling accolades that Wadena-Deer Creek Wrestling had earned. And now as well, for Wadena-Deer Creek girls wrestling, when it comes to McKenna Brock and Addison Hillica getting their 50th career wins over the weekend, Corey, and just a really, really cool moment to get to see those two honored for their quickly kind of racking up wins over the last few years.
McKenna and Addison, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, you know, the girls wrestling at Wadena-Deer Creek having themselves a really nice year. I know that they competed over the weekend in that St. Michael Albertville tournament, which featured a lot of AA kind of traditional wrestling schools, and they're pretty much kind of the smallest school in that bunch when you look at St. Michael Albertville and you look at the Brainards and you look at the Monticellos and other schools that were down there. And for them to kind of hold their own and compete, definitely they definitely feel good about kind of where they stand as a team-wise. And I was talking with head coach Brad Woolham, too, about, you know, how cool is it that you get to have a team and there are local teams around that can help things out. And he just said, you know, it's just really good motivator. Like, individual tournaments are nice and you know, girls and boys both wrestle for them. But he's like, there's something about wrestling for your team that just gets a little bit of extra motivation for yourselves. And that certainly has helped with both of them getting to 50 career wins. And just, again, a really nice kind of feather in the cap for what's been a very strong first couple of years of WDC girls wrestling.
Way to go.
Way to go. All right, Corey, let's wrap up the show. We're going to talk Minnesota Vikings here as we get things caught up. Sam Darnold's in the Super Bowl. How do we feel about that? Because in my like the very end of the game, because Darnold played great, by the way. He was not a driver of the bus. He didn't just, they're hiding him. They're asking him to not do a lot. He threw over 370 yards and 3 touchdowns against the team that had beat him earlier in the year and had beat him last year in the postseason. And now he's going to the Super Bowl. And my instant gut reaction is just, God dang it. He was on the Vikings and there was no reason why? I shouldn't say that's strong, but the biggest thing is the Vikings just told him, nah, we don't need you. Go out the door. We're fine. And then had a quarterback who played closer to Christian Ponder than Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I have my emotions on some of this has taken me far and wide, from ranging from like, yeah, it sucks, but going back a season ago, we kind of all agreed that was the right decision to make, even though a lot of us, you and I included in this conversation, would have been more than happy to franchise tag him and keep him around for another year. At the end of the season a year ago, I think Vikings fans were really sullied by how he played his final 2 games and forgot how good he was over the first 16 games of the season. And but now that he's playing well and he's leading a team that's going to the Super Bowl, all of a sudden we've forgotten about those 2 games that didn't go very well. So and then on the other end of the spectrum, my emotions are like, I think Kwesi has one more draft and one more round of free agency to sort this out, and he needs to pray amongst prayers that JJ McCarthy turns into a pro quarterback, or this is his last season as an organizer of an NFL football team, at least for the Vikings. So I've ranged everywhere from like, this is super unlucky, but that's how it works, to the decision makers for the personnel and this varsity on this Vikings roster is single-handedly responsible for how this season went and how it's projecting to go, and off with his head, for lack of a better term.
And it's very fascinating because this is a Rorschach test, right, for a lot of Vikings fans and the fallout from that. Because first of all, the first reaction should just be, congrats, Sam Darnold. That's awesome. Like, it's really cool. He had every opportunity. You could hear it. The first question he got asked after he won the game was, all these teams didn't believe in you, and what are you doing here? And he's like, I haven't really had time to think about it, which is, he's lying. He's obviously thought about it. But he never trashed the Jets or the Panthers while he was in Minnesota, and he didn't trash them in Seattle, and he didn't trash the Vikings, and he didn't go screw the haters. He was basically he did everything right, and he was good, and he was it sounded like him and JJ McCarthy had a decent relationship. Like, that guy could have came in and just been like, screw everybody, I'm here to save my career. And he wasn't. He was a good dude by all intents and purposes. So for Vikings fans, and there were a lot of Vikings fans that were hoping you'd implode because make themselves feel better. But your reaction just be, good job, Sam Darnold. Like, that's good on him. Anyway, but the biggest thing is it's a Rorschach test for Vikings fans in a way, right? Because you've seen it. There's people who don't like people who are necessarily critical of Kevin O'Connell going, see, this is O'Connell's fault because he trusted too much in JJ McCarthy in his own process. And then there's some people who go, see, this is Kwesi's fault because whatever. I've seen Vikings fans, because there was again, I'm using Instagram and stuff like that as a read on the fan base, but there are a bunch of people who go, yeah, it's all Kwesi's fault. And they go, well, what about KOC? And they go, KOC didn't want McCarthy. He wanted Darnold. It's like, where was that reported anywhere? Like, where was that? Like, nowhere. It wasn't reported anywhere. Like, I don't know whose fault it was. I don't know who is more at fault. If it's KOC, if it's Kwesi. Kwesi has the final say. We presume he's the GM. He could have told Kevin, no, we got to use this to build out our roster. Kevin O'Connell could have said, no, like, let's go with the young guy. I like the upside. I can't get any more out of Darnold. I don't know. But the point is like you said, Corey, time's ticking on this group. Like, they need McCarthy to take a huge step forward this year. And I know O'Connell is a good coach, and he won Coach of the Year, and I know Kwesi has made the playoffs 2 out of the 4 years they've been here. But if after the blunders that they've had, if they don't make the playoffs this year, somebody's getting fired, if not both of them.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. You and I have, I think your default has often been to go to KOC on some of this. My default has often been to go to Kwesi. I'm not criticizing either, because I think both are right and both are wrong in their own ways. What I know is that a Sam Darnold offense under the regime of a KOC offense was really spectacular, borderline MVP candidate for 16 games. And then Darnold wet the bed for 2 games in a row. Like, that is a thing that we know is true. We saw it happen. And then, however the decisions are made, again, you put a little more weight into what KOC's impact is on this. I put a little more weight onto Kwesi's impact on this. But they decided someone in whatever ratio.
They all decided
that Kirk Cousins wasn't going to be it, and that's fine. I don't think any of us disagree with that. But then they decided that Sam Darnold wasn't going to be it. And I think, generally speaking, a lot of us were kind of okay with that decision, especially the way his last 2 games in a Vikings uniform went. But they also had Daniel Jones in the locker room, who was on an MVP pace before he got hurt with Indianapolis.
And if you think a lot of reporting, the Vikings thought they were going to keep Jones in the building. They really thought he was going to stay.
And then they took a swing on J.J. McCarthy for whatever reason, whosever decision, and it was really bad. So it's like you can't make a mountain out of a molehill, but there's a lot of molehills here that are starting to stack up that just do not 2 + 2 is starting to equal 5 in this scenario, and it's not good. And like I said, I happen to lean towards the person who builds the roster first, but I know that the head coach is in on this. I just know that the head coach had a really good year with Sam Darnold until 2 games were interesting. My question, now maybe you have more to add to that, but my follow-up to this is, like, what does the rest of 2026 and 27 need to look like? Like, is it just JJ needs to be awesome? Or just good? Maybe not even awesome, but like he can show that he can actually do it? Or does like the drafting need to be better? Because the drafting's been bad. The free agency defensively has been good, but offensively was like a complete and utter backfire from a season ago. Like, what needs to be, does it all need to incrementally be better? Does JJ just need to be good? Does the free agency stuff just need to pan out? What is it for you that means Kwesi has a job? Because I think he would be the first to go. That's my personal opinion.
You're probably right on that one. I do agree with that one. I think the organization will be much more willing to be like, we know we have a coach of the year offensive guy. We're going to keep him around, and we'll have a GM come in, and that would likely mean that Kevin O'Connell has a little bit of power in that situation over who the GM is, and it's a weird shift. But anyway, I do think that it really is going to come down to quarterback, because the Vikings, despite not drafting well, despite the free agent pickups not all working out, they had a top 5 defense. Now, it took them a little bit to get there. Remember, there were some injuries at the beginning of the year to Cashman and Harrison Smith and things like that. But generally speaking, the Vikings defense was awesome more often than it was bad this year.
Can I add one more caveat?
Yeah.
It also got good when they started playing horse crap quarterbacks.
What, you mean Clayton Tune isn't a good barometer of how good a defense played?
Just saying that's a part of it.
That is a part of it.
We can't forget that part of it, because that matters. But anyway,
they did have the game of but they did basically single-handedly drag the Vikings kicking and screaming to a win against Detroit.
100%. Yep.
And Sam Darnold going to the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold didn't play well that time when the Vikings played him. It's just that Max Brosmer played worse, and
much worse.
So you can look. They were in the Green Bay game. They should have won against Chicago if the special teams and the offense can just do anything. Like, there are certain things where we look at only the games they won where the defense played well. The defense did, and there are some other games where they imploded. Don't get me wrong. The Charger game is one that I think about, but they overall it is JJ McCarthy, because this team still played well enough. And even though you overpaid for Will Fries, he's been a disappointment. You basically paid Dalton Reisner 3 times his salary for slightly better Dalton Reisner. Your free agent center gets hurt. There's nothing you can do about that one. Free agent center gets hurt. That happens. Move on. But I think it really is just going to come down to JJ McCarthy or what the franchise does. The more I think about it, the more I think this team is going to bring in like a Geno Smith to be a backup for McCarthy. And if things go south and they go 0-3 and you need to save your job, they're going to bring in Geno Smith, like something like that. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to happen. I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to happen. I don't think Justin Herbert's going to happen. I don't think even Kyler Murray is going to happen for this team. But I do think that they're going to bring in somebody. But the more I think about it, the more it's like you're just kind of shuffling deck chairs, and you kind of have to just roll with McCarthy and hope he takes another step up. And that's going to be the only way out of this. Your best way out of it is going to be McCarthy getting better, because you basically maxed out your roster with how good they could play, considering its quarterback play. Yes, the drafting needs to be better. Yes, they need more young players. That is all true. But they would be a playoff team this year if they had 15th best, 20th best quarterback play, and instead they got 26th through 30th quarterback play in the NFL. And I understand some of these wins at the end of the year are a little, like the Packers win is a little tough to judge, but you get what I'm saying is like this team could have won even a couple. They would have beaten Chicago twice if they had decent quarterback play. They would have been able to beat the Falcons if they had decent quarterback play. They would have been able to beat the Steelers if they had decent quarterback play. I know that was Wentz, but you get my point. Like all of that stuff. So yes, all of that stuff does matter, and they do need progress in drafting young guys, and they do need to get better at that. That is, I'm not absolving blame, but it's all going to fall on the guy Kwesi picked at quarterback in JJ McCarthy. Because if he takes a huge step up and is really good, well, then that quarterback play can mask parts of your roster. If he's not good again, and if you draft a stud corner, but your quarterback stinks, you're probably getting fired anyways. So that's where I stick this on. It's unfair, and we're asking a lot of McCarthy, but the Vikings put him in that spot. And if you talk about Kwesi's postseason presser, he's like, yeah, we are working off of incomplete information. Then why did you let Darnold walk out the door if your assessment of McCarthy wasn't complete yet? This is all to pin it back to Darnold and to this conversation. The Vikings spent more time internally debating if they should sign Aaron Rodgers at 43 years old than keeping Sam Darnold. Like, that's where there were not reports of like, oh, the Vikings are unsure of Darnold. It was, oh, the Vikings are unsure. They should bring in Rodgers. Sources in the building or this, source in the building or that, which again proves that NFL head coaches, NFL front offices, NFL ownerships are just like us, and they can also overreact to a 2-game sample size.
Yeah, if you're operating on incomplete information, that's your fault. That's your job to get the complete information. If I can, I want to end this on Darnold, unless you have more.
No, that's pretty much it.
But like the one thing I don't appreciate in all of this conversation is some of the like revisionist history on Darnold. Like, it's really easy to look at him playing well and getting his team to a Super Bowl and being a huge cog in that machine, and remember how good he was for the Vikings a season ago and go, what are the Vikings thinking? But then all you had to do was go back to before the season started or the end of last season and how icky we felt about Darnold because of how bad he played. And he played bona fide bad quarterback in his last 2 games in a Vikings uniform. He just did. It was not good. And those 2 games were so bad that we forgot about the previous 16 games. So any conversation about like, was he good? Was he not good? Everyone's changed their opinion on this like 19 times. And I just don't think that is fair to this entire conversation. Like, anybody who's like, what were the Vikings thinking? Their opinion better have been they need to re-sign this guy at the end of last year. Because if you were like, we cannot win with this guy, look at what he did, you're not allowed to change your mind. Like, I just think that's an unfair argument to make. And then also another point in all of this, and I'll use David Ortiz as the example. People like to rag on the Twins for David Ortiz, and he showed a lot of promise and a lot of potential, but he never quite got over the hump. For whatever reason, blame whoever you want. But it took David Ortiz being released and signing somewhere else for another team to realize his full potential and for him to be like, damn, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And maybe, just maybe, those 2 games that Darnold played against Detroit to end the year a season ago was the experience he needed to help get over the hump for this season. Now, how can you know that for a Vikings uniform the next year if that's going to be the case? But he went into this season as the Seattle quarterback, knowing he played well, laid an egg, and a big reason why he isn't back in a Vikings uniform is because of how poorly he played in the biggest moments. Tell me that's not a huge motivating factor coming into this season. All of this stuff is connected and tied together, and I think is really important and a part of the conversation that is not talked about enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair because, and remember, it's not like teams got in a bidding war for Darnold. Seahawks were like the only team, basically. Like, I mean, you could look, if you're a Steelers fan, you should be mad that the Steelers didn't sign Sam Darnold. If you're a Raiders fan, you should be mad that your team didn't sign Sam Darnold. If you're any team that had quarterback issues.
If you're a Vikings fan.
Right, you should be mad that they left. And here's the thing, the Vikings could have just brought him back on a franchise tag. Maybe he wanted to leave. But the Vikings just said, nah, one more year and you start for us and you figure it out. And he could have did all this. And you're right that Darnold probably needed that motivator, or Darnold at least needed the experience of playing in the postseason and getting stomped to understand how to play in some of these environments, because Darnold did look nervous if you watched him play in Detroit and watched him play in Arizona against LA. And what helped is Darnold was good enough to get the home seed, which if you're a Vikings fan, if you could have just found a way to beat Detroit and had the home field advantage, like, how different does that playoff run look? Whatever. It's all hypothetical. But to say Sam Darnold on this Vikings team doesn't guarantee that they're getting to the Super Bowl. That is unfair to think that just blop, blop works the same. But that being said, and we both agree on this, the Seattle Seahawks are in the Super Bowl in large part because of the Seahawks defense, but also because of Sam Darnold. Everybody talks about, Sam Darnold wasn't asked to do too much. That's the highest scoring Seattle offense in their franchise's history.
He was asked to do plenty.
He was asked to do plenty. There is a revisionist on some people's parts to act like Darnold was just a human handoff machine to a good defense and run game like Russell Wilson. He was not. That dude played legit quarterback and he had some stinkers. Don't get me wrong. He's not a top 5 quarterback in the league.
No,
and he wouldn't have been with the Vikings, but he certainly would be. He would be a step up of what Kirk Cousins was. And
probably a full 3 steps ahead of what the Vikings got out of JJ.
Right, exactly. If Sam Darnold is on this Vikings team, I don't know where they finish, but I guarantee you they're in the postseason.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And that's the tough part to swallow. So whatever. Time is a flat circle. Existence is pain. By the way, Garrett Bradbury and Stephon Diggs are also in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, they sure are.
They sure are, aren't they?
Is this not the most underwhelming, Final 4 teams and now Final 2? Do you feel like any of these teams that were remaining as of yesterday are great football teams?
The Rams and Seahawks, yes, they are great football teams. I will say that.
You feel that way about them?
Yeah, I did feel that about them. But the reason is we're a little bit NBA coded in this sense of dang, no no bona fide superstars that were no Mahomes, no Burrow, and you know what I mean? It impacts how, I'm not saying you, but the general fan feels about it. And this Super Bowl, we're not going to get a lot of talk about Drake May versus Sam Darnold. We're going to get 2 weeks of, remember the Malcolm Butler interception over and over again.
Well, yeah, there's definitely going to be, if you were to look at the last 20 years, there's basically 2 franchises who have been the primary team from each conference, and it's these 2 teams. So that is going to feel I'm going to get sick of that conversation real quick. Are they back? Are the Patriots and the Seahawks back? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't want 2 franchises to be less back.
It's everybody looks at the Chiefs after they made the Super Bowl last year and go, my goodness, I would trade anything for the Chiefs to be out of the playoffs and out of this discourse. And then the monkey's paw curled and we got the Patriots again. So you know what?
Yeah, we sure did.
There is since I think you got to go all the way back to 2005 or maybe before, somewhere like that, where it's this is the, once again, an AFC championship game has featured New England or Kansas City every year for the last 20 years.
Pretty gross. I don't like it.
Pretty gross. I hate it. Thanks. All right. Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. See ya.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.